Yes, guys, welcome to Chasing Green Arrows. We are live on Wednesday afternoon. It's Gianni Battici, your regular host and regular co-host on a Wednesday. Mr. Big Man Backer. Big Man, how are you? We should start with our terrible wildcard, shouldn't we?
Hi, Johnny. Hello, welcome to all the listeners and viewers. Beyond terrible, actually. Absolute disaster. Let's just face it. I mean, what do we say? Both of us, I guess, are in the same boat. I think you got 37, 38 points. I got 34.
No, I think I got
So,
less than that.
yeah,
I think I got 33, didn't I? I don't know. I've not. I must admit, I
yeah.
don't. Yeah, it
I
was
think
bad.
both of us had poor weeks, irrespective. And both of us had similar teams, so I guess that's one of the reasons. Yeah, I don't want to speak too much about the previous week. After what had happened, I just took a couple of days off. I tweeted something on X, and after that, I decided to take 2 to 3 days off to sort of give myself some time to unwind. And now that things have settled, I'm sort of looking forward to next week already.
Yeah, good man. It's always the right thing to do. Have a little detox. I haven't had a detox, but the time has been good. And sometimes, look, guys, you need to step away. But I think it's important to note, and let's just address this because everyone in the chat is watching because they like you and I, and they like the show. But it's really important to know that sometimes the pressures that content creators can face, one with their teams and their selection, but two, their rank. And I'm not going to lie, like I was gutted on Sunday. This weekend was pretty much ruined by my FPL team, which is absolutely shocking. I'm ashamed to admit that. This is a game, and games have to be fun. And I used to be way worse. In the last couple of years, if I have a bad weekend in FPL, I completely can move on and enjoy my days with my family or whatever. And I don't let FPL get in the way too much of life. But this weekend, it really got me, and it put me in a foul mood. And it's because I've had a terrible start to the season. It's because my rank is what it is. And it's because my wildcard was such a disaster. But we have to remember, guys, if I can do it and step away and go, actually, it's not the end of the world. There's more going on. Chill out, Gianni, and move on. Then so can everyone else. And this is really a message to everyone watching that has had a red arrow or a bad few weeks. This is just a game. And if me and Big Man can get over it by Wednesday, then you guys have to as well. So as always on this pod, we are looking forward with hopes for game week 7. And I guess we'll turn it round. And most of the time, Big Man, content creators who have good rank histories or elite rank histories like yourselves, they do turn it round. But this season does feel a little bit more difficult because the start, I can't remember a start quite this bad.
Yeah, it will be challenging for sure, but it's only been 6 weeks. It's not only like it's 20% of the season. Still have like 80% of the season still left, and I was the same, just by the way. And I used to be way worse as well back in the day when FPL used to ruin my mood. Now it's simply a case of me knowing when to switch off, and it's basically because I'm at peace with the decisions that I made. As hilarious as it sound, I'm currently sitting 3.5-ish million in rank, but I do not regret many decisions that I made this season. Maybe one or two at best. So that sort of explains that you can only sort of laugh it off, because if I was pissed about my own self, I would have sort of taken more accountability about me doing something wrong. But I know there's been a lot of negative variance that's gone against me, and I know that eventually, with the passage of time, if I keep making decisions according to my thought processes and rationale, eventually my rank will get better. And I completely agree with you that it's very sort of important. It's a very fine line between knowing when to switch off and when to switch on. And I think these 2 days were actually really good because I've just taken some time away, spent some time with the family, completely sort of not looked at social media at all. And it's sort of helped me come back with a clearer, fresher mind.
And a fresh trim as well, looking sharp with the haircut. We're both in our blue today, both in our blue for Cole Palmer. Neil Robertson in the chat, guys. That is the Neil Robertson. Neil says the good news is that most wildcard teams have a great run of fixtures in the next 2 minimum. He makes a good point there. We do, don't we, big man? We have got a very good looking teams this week, and probably a very good looking team out the back of the international break as well. So fingers crossed it's green arrows only. And at our ranks, we're competing against a lot of dead teams already, so we should be getting greens.
I mean, even this thought of the team looking good on paper is a bit scary now, because every time I look at my team and it looks good on paper, I have to sort of prepare myself for a red arrow, which eventually seems to happen. I mean, no way would have I expected that Arsenal would concede twice to Leicester from like 0.09 XG. Palmer would score 4.5 in one half. Bruno would get sent off. Yes, everyone will act like hindsight merchant, saying that Bruno was a terrible pick. Why did you pick him? I mean, let's be honest, no one saw the red card coming. If anyone who's
His first red. It's his first red at United.
Anyone berating the pick or criticizing it did not know that a red card was coming. Fine, if he had blanked, I would have understood the argument. But this is generational bad variance that has happened. I mean, let's face it.
I don't love the Bruno pick, but I'm certainly not going to jump on you for it. I did make a joke that the best thing about Bruno being sent off was now Bruno owners have to sell him. but now
not necessarily.
You don't have to sell him, because United have appealed the ban and they've been successful. Now he will play, and he's not going to miss any games. There's no suspension. I'm really happy about that, because I own Bruno in our draft game that we're in. So that's good, because I was thinking about maybe having to trade him. Missing 3 games is big. But are you looking to trade him in FPL, or will he now stay? I guess he lives to fight another day, does he?
The thing, I mean, funnily enough, I mean, if he had been suspended, I would have had Rodgers coming in against Man United. So I didn't have to use a free transfer even then, right? So now this is just sort of made my decision a whole lot easier. I can just roll. And to be very honest, I think and this applies to a lot of wildcarders as well who are in the same boat like yourself, that we have wildcard looking at, let's say, the next 4 to 6 weeks. So presumably the next 4 to 6 weeks, the team will look fine. And that should be the case this week as well. So there's not much to think of. There are not too many decisions to debate, which is why I think that, this is actually sort of a nice time to sort of detox for, like, not just for 2 or 3 days, for 2 or 3 weeks. Still the Gameweek 8 deadline comes over after the international break.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. If you had Rodgers coming in this week for benched Bruno suspended, though, you still would have had 2 more weeks of Semenyo style. So you would have had to have sold him, I'm sure. But he has had another price drop. Don't want to turn this into the Bruno Fernandes show, but he is the big headline and often the elephant in the room with your team, big man. The price drops, though, by now, you just accept the fact that your team value is rubbish or whatever, and you take it up. I've had loads of price drops in my team.
I mean, I am honestly not too fussed about the price drops, because I'm not selling him. It's
there
fine.
you go, mate. I want nothing more than a Bruno Hall now.
I am married to the idea of keeping him for the foreseeable future. As rubbish as it may sound, as idiotic as it may sound, as much as flack I may get for this, but I won't be selling him anytime soon, irrespective of what he does for the next 3-4 weeks.
There we go.
Unless he gets sent off again. Which could happen.
Love that. Okay, well, let's move on. We need to speak in today's show about Cole Palmer. Of course we do. We need to talk about captaincy. There's a few things we got to touch on. Obviously, in terms of big questions, it does feel a little bit light this week. Like, of course, we need to look at where the wildcarders go with their team, and about 50% of those watching probably wildcarded. So let's move there, shall we? Question number 1, big man. We'll get to Palmer. We'll get to captaincy. I've got some data to show you from attacks and defences. But what should Game Week 6 wildcarders do? Like, we've had a bad week. We keep carry on. There is a chance Luis Diaz doesn't start on Saturday. We will know. We think we'll know, right? Because Liverpool, the early kickoff. It might be a Luis Diaz sell for some. If he's not starting, I'd be tempted to sell him.
I mean, generally, Game Week 6 wildcards, like I mentioned, most of them have good teams this week. So I don't think there's any reason to panic. I think the best thing you can do is not to look at your rank for the next 4 to 5 weeks, honestly.
I've not looked at season. I've not looked at season.
Yeah, exactly. You just forget about it.
I don't know.
That's the best thing that you can do, because if you look at the rank, you will make rash decisions, right? And that is the exact opposite of what you should be doing. So firstly, don't look at the ranks. Keep believing in yourself. Keep trusting your thought processes, and then go from there, right? Coming to Luis Diaz, yeah, that's an interesting one. Are you sure he gets benched? I'm still not confident whether he does or not, but you're right.
No,
I mean,
50,
because
50. If he starts tonight, I'd say I'm 50-50 for a start of the weekend.
It's a big fixture. tonight as well. But then, generally we tend to hear leaks from Man City, Liverpool, these kind of teams. We tend to hear leaks, especially because it's an early kickoff. So I won't be too worried if hypothetically, if he's benched and if you get the league, then what do we do? I think we can probably jump to Bowen. I think Bowen is not a bad idea.
Hadn't looked at
Yeah,
Bowen.
I think Bowen is
maybe not one for me,
Ipswich,
but okay.
Ipswich Town is a good carrot, I think.
Yeah, it is. And if you're going to buy a West Ham player, it's always Jarrod Bowen, and nothing's changed there.
Yeah.
I like the Spurs attack, moving down to like a Brennan, and saving some money.
Yeah,
but
Brennan is nice as well.
Vision.
Brennan is really nice as well. I'm actually sort of confident in his minutes going forward. He's been playing really well, and he's actually the only right winger they seem to have. So I'm pretty sure that he's going to play in the weeks to come. I think Spurs are going to be big, by the way, in terms of our discussion points in Game Week 8. I think our whole discussion in Game Week 8 will actually revolve around Spurs and to a certain extent Man City as well because of their fixtures. But I think a lot of people will be looking at Son, myself included. Foden,
really, yeah.
Porro, Guardiola, all these guys, I think they will be really popular in the weeks to come. So this, again, I mean, at the cost of repeating myself, I think this is the ideal week to save because there will be plenty of other changes, let's say more important changes that you would be looking to make in the weeks to come. I think this week, just forget about it, chill, come back after the international break and reassess.
Yeah, we can't forget there is an international break again. So this game week ends.
Are you looking forward to it, Johnny?
No, I'm actually not. Because of the red arrows and because of the terrible week last time out, I now want a couple of weeks where I can gain momentum. And I look at my team and go, next few game weeks, I'm getting green arrows. I want those green arrows now. And we're going to get one. We're going to get green arrows at the weekend. I'm sure of it. Like, of course, we are our ranks with our teams. No, we are, big man. We are.
You said the exact same thing in our previous stream. Yeah, I'm not trusting you for 1 second. The next thing I'll know is that Bruno's going to get red carded again. Solanke is going to get injured. Haaland will miss a penalty. These kind of things will happen. Again, Arsenal will concede from 0.01 XG. I'm not trusting you one bit. I mean, I've seen the worst of variants, so yeah, I'm sort of mentally preparing myself for the worst.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I do think the Luis Diaz question's a good one because I think we might be in a situation where will he, won't he? But many will have a Morgan Rogers or a Dominic Calvert-Lewin on their bench to go, oh, Luis Diaz is benched, fine, I move them in. Let's just show some attacking numbers. I think actually,
I'm sorry to cut you off, Gianni. I think that is actually the best strategy. My recommendation for the transfer was actually assuming that you don't have bench cover. But if you have bench cover, then
Morgan Rogers,
benching for sure. I think Rogers is a very, very able replacement. You had him on your bench this week, right? I benched him. Of course, I did for his first goal of the season.
Yeah, I know. Like, I've had Morgan Rogers since day one, and yeah, I benched him. What was the real killer for me was the Watkins assist for the Rogers goal, and then obviously a Watkins goal. Knowing I've been so pro Ollie Watkins, my decision at the deadline wasn't Raya or no Raya or doubler. I was set. I was going Havertz and Saka. I was happy not to have Raya. I'd made peace with that the night before. It was Ollie Watkins or Luis Diaz. And Watkins came with Rogers in my 11, both of them. And Luis Diaz came with Dominic Calvert-Lewin in my 11 and no Aston Villa. That was a massive swing. And I look at it now, and if I could swap right now, I would have Watkins over Diaz in my team in a heartbeat. Since then, Watkins has scored 11 points, gone up in value. And here I am chasing my tail again. I called it. Ollie Watkins is a great own, and that was a massive error of judgment on my part not to back him.
I mean, I did think of you when he scored on the weekend. Yeah. You were a very big on him. But having said that, I still think Havertz was extremely unlucky as well.
Yeah, but I was always having Havertz. It was Luis Diaz for me. It was Diaz or Watkins, and I only went Diaz because of the Wolves news of the illness in the camp. I was all right backing against Diaz. I knew his ownership. I wasn't set on his minutes. We all knew he was going to get subbed at 70, but start. But it was just looking at the Wolves back line. But I think we have to remember, sometimes you go into a Premier League fixture and it feels like everything's aligned to go Luis Diaz is going to haul. But there's no easy game, not really easy, other than newly promoted teams. No team's going to get battered. And Wolves at Molineux are always strong. With hindsight, I shouldn't have worried about the 11 and gone, no, Gary O'Neill's Wolves at home, they don't often concede 3-4. I think Chelsea went and scored a fair few against them. But other than that, I should have backed Watkins against Ipswich. It was an easy call there. Bad play on my part.
I still think it's a bit easier to say in hindsight, actually.
True.
But yeah, irrespective now, what's happened has happened.
Yeah.
I assume the only sort of difficult decision for you this week will be the Luis Diaz transfer call, and even that I think is sort of easy, keeping in mind the bench that you have.
I've got Rodgers, yeah. I've got Rodgers or DCL as my first sub. I don't know which one I'll sub. I'm scared to sub Rodgers, actually, against United. I think I could even sub DCL against Newcastle, but I think I just play them, you're right. And look, Luis Diaz still is a perfectly good own. Of course he is. He's been a great asset this season. Look, big man, let me show you some attacking numbers that I was just looking at this morning.
Sure.
We've got some data on, because we mentioned Spurs. What I really like is Tottenham. Oh, sorry, this is the defensive data. We've got some attacking data to show you. Here we go. Tottenham, more big chances than any other team in the league this season. Sure, they've scored 12 goals to Chelsea's 15, but more big chances than anyone. Like Solanke, Brennan, even Kulusevski, Maddison, Son. We're going to be going to Spurs, aren't we?
Absolutely. And I think Son is going to be really popular in Gameweek 8. I think I'm looking at him. I have Porro in my team, but anyone who doesn't have Porro and let's say has double Arsenal defense, I think by Gameweek 9 you would want to make that switch, given the fact that Spurs are going to have a good run of fixtures going forward. So I think these players will be really, really popular. And yeah, I think their numbers are actually really good. This is actually one of the main reasons that I've picked Solanke. I think Solanke has had 5 starts so far since he's joined, including one in the Europa League. And in that time, he's had 9 big chances. So he's clearly the main goal scorer, the main point of threat in that team going forward.
Yeah. The number 9 for a Postecoglou team will have a ton of chances created for him. And the proof is already there in the pudding for the big chances of the team so far. Any other teams here catch your eye in terms of that's surprisingly good? Because we expect to see, Liverpool, Chelsea, City up there. But Chelsea's goals and second there with Liverpool for big chances. That Chelsea attack too, if you're not going Cole Palmer, can you look at a Sancho? Can you look at a Madueke or a Jackson? Because they're all affordable. They're not getting 90, but they're all affordable and they don't need to get 90 with these numbers.
Yeah, I agree. The numbers are actually really good. For now, I don't have too much interest in Chelsea, simply because my squad is relatively well settled and I still want to assess the minutes for Chelsea going forward. I'm still not 100% confident in their minutes. I mean, apart from Palmer, even Jackson, I noticed in 6 of the in 3 of the 6 starts, he tends to get subbed around the hour mark. So I want to see a bit more with Jackson even. And once that is settled, then I can sort of decide which way to go with my team going forward.
Yeah, like that. Go on.
Yeah, coming to this, what are your thoughts on Palmer? Because obviously he's scored 4 times last week in one half. Everyone seems to be talking about him. Do you think he's a must-have at this point?
No. I love him, and I think he's a great FPL option. And I've thought that since day one, but with his price point, I've been okay not owning him. And I'm going to be completely honest, on Wildcard, I never really looked at a Palmer draft. We spoke about it a little bit last week, but I was fine with those 4 goals. This weekend, my weekend wasn't ruined by Cole Palmer. It was ruined by all the players I sold on Wildcard that then got 10, 15 points.
For me, it was the opposite. I didn't consider Palmer in my wildcard team, but I see a lot of people around me. The only difference between my team and their team was the fact that they had Cole Palmer. I was actually really worried about Liverpool going mental and nuclear against Wolves with the injuries that they had. But I was sort of okay with the Salah 10-pointer. I didn't have Trent. Trent got a 1-pointer. I didn't have Luis Diaz, who seemed to owned by a significant chunk of FPL managers. He got a 2-pointer. So my weekend was definitely ruined by Cole Palmer. He was the sole reason. I mean, around my rank, he had 38% ownership. That is just very high.
Similar.
That destroyed my week.
Yeah, he's 45% overall. I guess because I'm a Chelsea fan, I was cheering on the goals still. But yeah, I mean, look, there's a few comments in the chat being oh, look, Chelsea fan with no Cole Palmer saying no to Cole Palmer. Guys, we can only have 15 players and we can probably only have 2 players above 10 million. I am not for 1 minute saying I don't like Cole Palmer as an FPL asset. I'm not saying I don't want Cole Palmer. I kind of do. Do I prefer Saka for the next couple of games? Yes, I do. If I could make the switch right now on a free transfer, which I can do, I've got 2 free transfers. This coming week, do I want Saka or Palmer in my team? The answer is Bukayo Saka. Do I think I'll own Cole Palmer in the next month or so? Absolutely. And I'll be moving my premiums around a lot this season. But as things stand, I want Saka for game week 7. And the only way I can have Cole Palmer as well as Saka is probably to sell a Haaland, and that ain't happening. Something has to give.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of agree as well. As much as I love Palmer, I don't think this is the week to sort of go for him, especially when I have Saka against Southampton. I would rather have Saka this week. And then maybe if I think it's the right time for him, I might look at him in the weeks to come. But even then, I think he's going to have plenty of competition for that slot because Son is going to be a really good option. Foden is going to be a really good option. So who do you pick at that point? So I'm happy to reassess for one more week, and then I'll see where we end up. I also think we sort of got a bit unlucky with the Van Hecke news because had Van Hecke been playing, he's one of Brighton's best defenders this season. I don't think the outcome would have been as comical. And I still remember sort of getting those notifications from SofaScore that day. And every single time that I knew Chelsea had scored, I was just hoping no Palmer. And every single time, it was an absolute killer. And I had no idea what was going on in my life. It was an absolute nightmare.
I would say even with Van Hecke, Brighton was so naive. The high line was ridiculous. Do you remember when Chelsea played Spurs? I think it was last year, and Spurs had 9 men, and they had this ridiculously high line. Postecoglou had just been there, and we kept getting in behind, and it was just goals galore in that game. It was the same against Brighton, but they had 11 men, and with Van Hecke or not, Palmer hit the post, had a goal disallowed. He could have had even more. Like, it was a brutal, and he was amazing. But yeah, it played into our hands. Nottingham Forest will be a very different opposition. We saw them go to Anfield. Liverpool didn't score against Forest at Anfield. Nottingham Forest, Nuno teams, they're set up to defend, especially away from home. Chelsea will struggle to score 2 goals against Forest. And we might do because we're playing really well and we're scoring lots of goals, but it will not be easy, and you're certainly not going to see another four from Chelsea. Might be my famous last words.
Of course, Forest are fine, I think.
Well, when we look at the defensive numbers, let's go to the defensive chart that we showed you very briefly earlier. Forest, for expected goals conceded, Chelsea's opponents this week, ranked 3rd.
Yeah,
not bad.
The numbers are really good. A couple of weeks ago, they shut down Mo Salah when we went for him, hoping for a hat trick, but that never seemed to happen. So yeah, their defense is not bad for sure. The numbers are fine.
Before we move on then, guys, thank you for all your comments. 67% of you did vote Saka over Palmer, which is interesting. We agree. Other big conversations then. I mean, look, we've had the Palmer conversation. The fixtures are fine for him and he's a good own. The other conversations to have are around captaincy. We need to do that. We'll do a captaincy poll before we discuss it. I think in the captaincy poll, we've got to think Haaland, obviously. Arsenal attacker, i.e. Saka or Havertz, Salah, and of course Cole Palmer. They would be our 4 options, I think, for captaincy. I'm guessing the vast majority are still on Erling Haaland, and rightly so, because when he plays a middling team at home, he's usually a banker, isn't he?
Yeah, generally. I don't think Saka's a bad pick, though, and I still think it's going to be close. I'm 70-30 on Haaland, but I don't think I'm completely set on the captaincy this week. I think I'm going to sort of reassess my thought regarding it before the deadline. But yeah, of course, I mean, I think both of them are fine picks. There's not much between them. I think hypothetically, if you want Salah, Palmer, Haaland, Saka, I think Haaland and Saka are pretty clear of the rest in terms of their potential this week. You think so? You're captaining Havertz.
If I captain, no, I'm 60-40 Haaland Havertz. I'm not captaining Saka.
Oh, that's interesting.
I can say I'm not captaining Havertz. Oh, we didn't put Salah in the chat. Guys, we'll do a Saka and Havertz option, and then we'll add Salah, because I know a lot of you have got Salah, we can do whatever. It's just a poll. These are the expected goals in the Premier League so far per 90. Haaland is just clear. 1.04 compared to Salah's 0.66. Palmer 0.65. Kai Havertz 0.60. And Kai clocked 1.89 XG, the highest of the game week so far in game week 6. So talk to me about Havertz over. You're clear it'd be Saka over Havertz if you own both, big man.
I think so, yeah. I mean, I generally tend to go with the midfielder if I'm taking the risk with Haaland, which I did this week, actually. My captain was Saka. And he was close to recording riddance. The guy created 4 big chances, and I didn't even get a single assist. And at the end, he was on 3 bonus points, and those 2 points got taken away by Sunday as well. So yeah, I do think that Saka's clear of Havertz personally. Simply because the extra clean sheet point, extra goal point. But Havertz is not a terrible shout. I think if I was picking between Haaland and Havertz, so I think I would definitely go with Haaland. Another sort of one of the reasons at the back of my mind, and I know this is not rational thinking and this is not the way I should be thinking, is the fact that I was brave enough to take on the Haaland captaincy last week, given the fixture and given the fact that Arsenal had Leicester at home. But now Haaland has a much easier fixture and he's at home. So it's definitely way more risky than it was last week, and that's why I go with Haaland.
Yeah. I hear you. I tweeted when I saw you went Saka, being like, that is refreshing, because that was brave last week, and it was the right call, and you were really unlucky. Again, variance played against you, but Saka was brave. But Saka had 7 shots last game week. That was the same shots as Cole Palmer. He created, I think, something like 3 or 4 big chances. Saka's numbers were so good that he very nearly got 3 bonus points despite no attacking return in a 4-goal game for his team. That's how good his underlyings were, whether it was creativity or dribbles, the amount he was fouled, all of that stuff in the bonus points is really working for Saka. The only reason I like Havertz is he's just scoring goals for fun at the moment, and he has scored every single time this season Arsenal have played at the Emirates. 5 games at the Emirates, a goal in every single one for Kai Havertz. They play a Southampton team that's worse defensively than Leicester. What do you reckon, big man?
I agree.
Yeah?
I agree. I completely agree.
And we saw what they did. They clocked 6 XG against Leicester.
Yeah.
If they clock 6 XG against Southampton, Havertz and Saka are going to score more points than Haaland. If they clock 6 XG again, you're going to see Saka and Havertz massive hauls.
I agree, but I still sort of like Haaland slightly more. And I'm only playing devil's advocate over here.
Yeah.
Because when City score, you know it's going to be Haaland. When Arsenal score, it may be anyone. It could easily be defender as well. So Haaland's goal involvement percentage is likely to be higher as compared to any Arsenal attacker that you pick. So that's one of the arguments against going with an Arsenal attacker, even though they may score more goals. But even that is not certain, because City at home are a completely different beast. And I would expect them to score thrice against Fulham, minimum. 3 goals, I think, I'm expecting a 3-0, 4-0 win for City.
That's it for me. It's just going, are Fulham actually slightly better than we think? But I'm with you. I think I see 3 goals. I'm really keen to get Dean's take on this as a Fulham fan, because Fulham really impressed me last time out. They went to, this is a very different proposition, but they went to Forest. And Forest at City Ground are pretty good defensively, and Fulham clocked 1.5 XG and deserved the win. And I just wonder if Fulham are better defensively than we think. Can I see them causing Man City problems? No. It's a comfortable win. But is that comfortable win 2-0 or 4-0? I'm not so sure. If it's 2-0, I don't want to captain Haaland. I need to know City are scoring 3 goals plus, because I fully expect Arsenal to. I guess it is. It's just a share of points, isn't it? If City score...
Yeah, that's a fair point.
It's Havertz. It's Haaland. If Arsenal score, it could be 1 of 4.
And I think it's actually nice and refreshing that we're having a discussion, because it's not clear-cut this week at all. I think you can go for any Arsenal attacker or Haaland. I think it's fairly close between the two of them. Do you think you'd captain Saka over Salah and Palmer if you owned all 3, though? Yep. I think yes.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, easy for me. Easy for me, that. I think with Salah, the fixtures average. And I think Chelsea, the fixtures good, but not great. Like Forest are good. And if when we look at captaincy, we always look at ceiling. If we're looking at big ceiling, I don't think Palmer's ceiling is huge this week. And I know many will disagree. I just don't.
Yeah, I agree. And what about Salah?
All of the ceiling. I don't know. Salah's one of those players. He had a terrible game at Wolves. He was really bad, but he could have scored an open goal that he missed. He should have assisted Jones on the counter-attack for a very easy tap-in, and he gets a penalty. And then with that 3 bonus, Salah has this way, like no other player in FPL history, of just getting points when he plays bad.
And Ijani, coming to Salah, we've owned him for 2 weeks this season, and we've owned him at the worst possible times.
1 assist we got.
So he's a player who I really don't like talking about that much, because whenever I seem to own him, he doesn't do much at all.
I took a 4-point hit for him.
Yeah, I recall that in Gameweek 4. So, yeah, I mean, and he scored in the tougher fixtures actually, and blanked in the easier ones. I mean, Bournemouth at home, he only got like a 6-pointer when he was supposed to be like the big mega captain, game changer. That didn't happen. Forest, he blanked. So I can completely see why you're not sort of as confident in Salah. We doesn't really sort of seem to do that well whenever we own him.
Miguel in the chat said Fulham have not conceded more than 1 goal per game this season. I didn't know that. We'll just maybe check that, Miguel.
Yeah, but their fixtures have been very kind. So I think when you look at their fixtures, they've been very good. Let me read them out. So they've played Leicester, Man United, Ipswich, West Ham, Newcastle, and Forest.
Yeah.
That's a very easy run of fixtures. That's not tough. They've not played a top 5 attack at all. They've not played Spurs. No. They've not played Chelsea, Liverpool, City, Arsenal, right? So that's why the data is skewed.
This is the first big test.
Exactly. And when you look at the previous sort of previous season's numbers as a reference point, then Fulham's defensive data was pretty bad.
Yeah. And what was the score last year at the Etihad? Because Fulham did get...
I think it was 2-0, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to check.
I think it was higher than that. I feel like Fulham may have scored if it was like, I don't know, 4-1 or something. I don't know.
Let me check.
But I'm sure... It's typical. We often see this.
It was 5-1. It was 5-1. Oh, God. It was 5-1.
I knew Fulham scored.
Haaland scored a hat-trick.
Come on, man! Like you can spin the narrative how you want. Fulham haven't conceded more than 1 this season in any game, or they lost 5-1 at the Etihad last season. Like it's
exactly. Haaland scored a hat trick in that fixture. So yeah, I am fully expecting City to win comfortably. It's not a game they'll be worried much.
How do you feel about Foden?
Especially, I'm liking the look of him. I think I'm going to give him this week, assess him, and then. Likely going to consider him as a pick in game week 8 because he still hasn't played much, right? I mean, his first start this season was yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, in the Champions League.
Yeah, I think his second start. I don't think he's had a Premier League start, but he's had 2 cup games now. He started the midweek. I think it's his second start.
I fully expect him to start Fulham. I fully expect him to start against Fulham now this week.
Yeah, and he played well. He was player of the match last night. He got player of the match from UEFA.
And so if he plays well against Fulham, then he's definitely one I might be considering in my team next week.
Yeah, okay, I like that. It was interesting to see, by the way, guys. It was Doku and Savio who played on the wings last night. Now, in the Premier League, which was a bad game for City against Newcastle, we went with the control of Bernardo and Grealish. Seeing the direct nature of Savio and Doku last night, City looked so much better. I expect it to be similar at the weekend, a similar sort of 11 with Foden as the 10. Doku, Savio, maybe one of them drops out, but certainly one of them starting as a minimum. And I think that suits those that want to go Haaland captaincy. It was apparently 4-0 at Craven Cottage as well, says Brian. Thank you for that. So yeah, in the last couple of games, City have scoring a lot of goals against Fulham, and it will be hard to look past Haaland. I think you guys voting in the poll did vote in that direction. 18% of you went to a Arsenal attacker. 8% went to Salah. And only 6 to Palmer. So that's really interesting, saying that maybe Salah is the better option. Is worth noting Liverpool played tonight in the Champions League, but that is at home. It's also worth noting Arsenal played at home on Tuesday night in the Champions League, whilst Man City played away. I just wonder if that affects my decision slightly, that Man City had an away trip to recover from.
I think it depends on the narrative that you're choosing. Again, I think this is just narrative spinning.
Haaland also played at only an hour and got a bit of a rest.
Exactly. So, and scored. Right.
I still scored.
Again, another narrative could be that City have dropped points in 2 consecutive games. So this is one where they absolutely want to be winning and they'll win comfortably, right? So it depends on which way you think about it. There are a lot of different ways of looking at it. But I think objectively, when you look at the odds, etc., I think Haaland is probably the best one. Having said that, I think Saka is very close, and it's a decision that I will make very, very close to the deadline. I don't think this is settled at all.
If you owned Havertz, like me, would that
I
tempt
think
you?
Havertz is enough of a differential. Personally,
Just to
given
own?
the way I play, I think I would have enjoyed his points even if he scored a hat trick without me having him as captain. But and objectively, I do consider Haaland and Saka as better picks as than Havertz anyway. So that sort of
Okay.
ends the argument for me over there.
Let's just see a fixture ticker then, because I would want to highlight some of the Man City fixtures coming up. Because again, last night we saw Rico Lewis play really well, got an assist, played as an inverted right back, but very advanced. So Rico Lewis, Foden, Gvardiol, like all options in FPL alongside Haaland. So how do Man City look in the ticker? Like what do you make of the next few? Because Fulham at home's good. Wolves away is goodish, but then Southampton at home's a massive one for game week 9. Like you want to be on more than Haaland for that one, don't you? In terms of Man City attack, you want more than just Haaland captain there.
Yeah, that's why I actually have only 2 City players in my team, Rico Lewis and Haaland, and I want to give myself a bit more time, a bit more thinking time to assess and see which are the optimal 3 players to own from Man City. I may even go Guardiola if, let's say, if I like Son and if I don't like Foden, then I may even go Guardiola. But this is definitely fixture where I want triple City. You're right, and the fixtures in and around are good enough to actually triple up on City. Whether it's double attack or double defense, I don't necessarily mind either way.
The only thing stopping me on Foden is De Bruyne. De Bruyne had a good start to the season. We know he'll play as the number 10 when he plays. I don't see a world in which Foden and De Bruyne are playing 10s together. They'll play together, but it'll be Foden out wide. Just because Gundogan now exists. And Gundogan actually played a bit deeper last night. He kind of played as the 6. He played Gundogan, then he played Mateus, Nunes, and next to him, and Lewis stepping in almost to mirror Mateus on the other side. And then Foden as the 10. Just puts me off a tiny bit, Foden, but I think I could still go there for game week 9. Let's see. And of course, De Bruyne will be back fit by then. Could even be available this weekend, I think. Any other teams jump out? The top of the ticker, we've got Everton, Brentford. You're not looking at any immediate transfers other than probably Man City and Spurs, are you, big man?
That's correct. I think Man City and Spurs are the big ones for me from game week 8 onwards. Until then, I have most of the teams covered. I have Calvert-Lewin from Everton. I have Mikalenko as well, actually. I have Mbomo, Fleckin from Brentford, triple Arsenal. I don't have any Leicester. I don't want any Leicester. And I have Semenyo from Bournemouth. So, yeah.
Nice.
That's about it. So I have the top 5 teams covered in that run.
Yeah, it's a good run for a few. Guys, let's see Big Man's team. We haven't asked you once today. So knowing that, please do show your appreciation for the channel, Chasing Green Arrows, by simply hitting the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. And of course, you can hit that like button. Or if you want to, like Maliki, you can show us your support with a super chat. Thank you, Maliki. I've brought in Trossard and made him captain because at 2% ownership, he's returning every week and still overlooked. Maliki, that is brave, but I like it. Maliki's in my members WhatsApp group on my channel and we chat quite often and he's not scared to take a punt. One thing I'd say about Trossard is when Odegaard is back fit, Trossard and Martinelli will probably share minutes. But that ain't happening in game week 7. So for game week 7, I absolutely appreciate that call. So well played, Maliki. It's bold, it's brave, but why the hell not?
I agree. Coming to my team, I think the team sort of picks itself this week. I actually have Bruno last on the bench because this team was sent before the news came out of his suspension being reversed. So I will be happy to invite more pain again, and I will be playing Bruno over Rodgers.
Or DCL.
Rodgers will be first on my bench. No,
is it definitely Rodgers benched? Definitely Rodgers benched, big man. Or let's do a poll. If you were to bench who'd you bench, Calvert-Lewin or Rodgers? Because this is the same question I've got.
I mean, if you're doing a poll there and you include Fernandes, I think Fernandes will win single-handedly, right? I don't even think it'll be close.
No, but, we're just going to do Rodgers or DCL. You've got to start your boy Bruno, of course.
Of course. I'm kind of confident playing Calvert-Lewin. I think he was unlucky last week as well, Calvert-Lewin. He had a couple of good chances. He missed them. Then he got booked for time wasting, which was even worse. But I don't really rate the Newcastle defense, especially away from home. They're
Yes.
very, very leaky away from home. So I think this is an excellent fixture for Calvert-Lewin. And I think he's more likely to play, let's say, 80, 85, 90 minutes as opposed to Rodgers, who could get taken off early as well. So I'm
We know
more
there was a
confident
bit of an
in
injury, don't
Calvert-Lewin.
we? We know he'll play
Yeah.
tonight for Villa, but he came off with a bit of a hamstring niggle. Of course, Everton don't have a midweek fixture, and Aston Villa play Bayern Munich.
Yes,
That matters
exactly.
too, I think.
So, exactly. And that's why I'm going to be playing Calvert-Lewin. It's very likely that Rodgers ends up on my bench. I think the captaincy between Haaland and Saka is close, and it's a decision I'll make closer to the deadline. I'm leaning towards Haaland just about at the moment.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I'm looking forward to saving the transfer. I actually had one free transfer rolled into the wildcard. So after this week, I will have 3 free transfers. And then I will be looking to target more players from Man City, Spurs, and they will be high on the agenda going forward.
Worth noting, Newcastle actually played last night because of Champions League. Many wouldn't have seen it, but they had a narrow victory over AFC Wimbledon in the EFL Cup. There was a couple of injury scares. I did see, I think, both flagged now. I think sure Fabian Schär took the penalty. They won 1-0. He took the pen because there was no Gordon on the pitch, and Isak is, of course, injured. So Schär takes the penalty, but then went off, and he could have a slight knock there. And of course, Pope wasn't even in the squad, so we wonder if there's an injury there. I don't know if there was any comments from Howe, but John Ruddy was on the bench, and it was Dubravka that started. If Fabian Schär and Nick Pope, or even one of them, is out against Everton, then again, your answer there for Calvert-Lewin over Rodgers, I think, is clear.
Yeah, I agree. And coming to your team, Gianni, I assume you're similar with leaning towards saving the transfer even if Diaz is benched?
Yeah, just because I like Rodgers versus Villa. I think that's versus United. I still think, knowing they're at home, knowing Man United are at 6s and 7s, I still think it's a good fixture, not a great one. So yeah, I'm very, very happy with that. I think if Diaz is benched, though, it'll be annoying, but I'll just bench him myself.
Same with me. If there's anything wrong in my squad, or if we hear anyone is out before the deadline, Rodgers is a very able replacement, and this is exactly why we have the bench depth that we've sort of gone with. I know it can get annoying at times when Rodgers scored at the weekend when he was on our bench, but I don't necessarily mind it when it's going to help me in the times to come for 20 plus weeks.
Yeah, exactly that. Offcore has gifted a membership. That is very generous of you. And it was Andy Burton, who's one of our regulars, that won it. Now, Andy, as a benefit to being a member, you'll be able to watch our members-only content. And I know Dean has dropped a video today. I think it was on Saka versus Palmer. It's just a 5-minute watch. So do check it out if you're a channel member. And if you want to know more about memberships, you can hit the join button. I think the video will be dropped later this afternoon from Dean, by the way. There's also a WhatsApp group for channel members with Dean in, and he's been talking to all of you on WhatsApp 24/7 by the sounds of it. He's really enjoying it, and he's having a flying season, so he's very pro FPL at the moment. Wait till March and April. If his rank's rubbish, you won't get a reply for a while. But he's very keen at the moment. Semenyo, he's someone you'll be benching in game weeks 8 and 9, or selling? Benching, right?
I think so because he sort of rotates well with the rest of my attack. So I don't think he's someone I must sell at that point. Yeah. I mean, if an option emerges around the price point, then I might. But I don't think there's too many options that appeal in a similar price point. And Semenyo is actually really nice. I like him going forward. Again, I think I will be looking to targeting Spurs and City. So I don't think getting a mid-priced budget enabler in midfield is going to be the top of my shopping list. Simply because I won't be playing him. I can just play Rodgers.
Yeah, week. we both built our wild cards with 8 good attackers. We didn't go for 4.5 fodder, and that was a conscious decision. Painful at times. We found out last week that can be painful when you get Rodgers 7-pointer. But I'm sure when the likes of Semenyo have a tough fixture, will go, I'm glad I didn't go for a 4.5 Stewart of Southampton up front, or a Dibbling, or whatever. So yeah, guys, let us know if you dislike our teams, but I'll reveal mine on Friday on this channel, but it's very similar, as you know, to Big Man's. Does look like the majority of you would bench Dominic Calvert-Lewin over Rodgers, 56%. Thank you guys for voting. We'll be answering some questions as well. Offcourse says, drop a like and definitely look at the memberships. Thank you, Offcourse, as always, for your awesome support on Chasing Green Arrows. We'll probably bring up some questions. I don't think there's anything more to push you on. I mean, my team, big man, I went Sells over Flecken. And I'll be punished this week because Flecken's got a very good chance of a clean sheet and Sells I don't expect to get much. But long term, I'm hoping Sells is the better pick. My long-term plan, though, with Arsenal, I don't know about you. You've got 3 Arsenal in place. So I guess your Arsenal assets through the tough fixtures of like game week 9, 10, 11, you'll just be holding them, right? All 3? Or will you look to sell one of them?
I don't think I will be. I think I'll be selling at least one of them, if not
right.
2.
Okay, so one of the defenders, definitely.
Because when you look at my team, hypothetically, when you look at my team, I already have 2 Spurs in place, Porro and Solanke.
Yes.
I already have 2 City in place. Lewis and Holland, right? So, and the team in itself looks very robust for the weeks to come. I don't have too many transfers to make. I already have, after this week, I will have 3 rolled transfers. So I can afford to be a bit more aggressive in my play, especially at my rank.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe there's a world in which I may decide to sell Saka for Son or Saliba for maybe Guardiola. I was actually close at, the last decision that I had on my wildcard was between Flecken and Porro versus Ederson and maybe Dunk or any 4.5. I decided to go with Flecken and Porro because I 100% knew that I would want Porro from game week 8 onwards. So getting him in right now would sort of save the hassle of bringing him in later. So I have him in my structure right now.
Ederson blocked you from a Man City attacker come Southampton fixture as well. If you want to jump on a Foden, you've got Ederson. It's just a bit of and Lewis and Haaland. You can't do that. So I get why you didn't go Ederson.
Yeah, that was one of the main reasons. And because it was for 20 plus weeks, I mean, there's a very good chance that in 20 weeks I would want to have another City attacker, not just in the short term, right? So I didn't want to block myself from that opportunity. And there's every chance that I may want Guardiola anyway, right? If I'm looking at double City defense. So I thought I'd give myself a couple of weeks, and if Foden is not emerging as an option, I may get Guardiola for Saliba. But even then, I think Mykolenko rotates really well with the rest of my team.
That's why I said
Porro.
about not selling Arsenal, because actually you could start Lewis, Porro, Mykolenko and bench both Arsenal against Liverpool if you wanted. Like you've got a good enough defence to ride it out. If you go long term, I know I'm going to want double Arsenal defence. I don't need to use a transfer here.
Mykolenko does have Fulham that week, Fulham at home, which is a really good fixture. So I could do that. I could. And then Arsenal have Newcastle away, Chelsea away. I guess I could play one at least in any of the 2 fixtures. They're not terrible fixtures. Liverpool is actually the worst of the 3. So I could write it out really.
Mykolenko home to Fulham. So that's probably the best combination as well. Yeah, I looked at it and thought, not a foregone conclusion that you need to offload. I mean, it depends if we feel like we need to jump on a Foden or a Palmer when Saka's got his tricky fixtures. But for the defence, I think you're all right.
But Johnny, I mean, do you want me to roll till the end of time? Because I will have 5 free transfers in that.
We've got to use our transfers at some point.
Because I don't have anything to do, and no, I won't be selling Bruno. So that's not happening. In case someone responds in the chat, I won't be selling Bruno. And I think the rest of the team is well set up. Which again, this is the point that you were trying to make, right? That our teams look good for the weeks to come. So we should be excited looking at the weeks ahead, which is fine. And I'm looking forward to them as well. But at the same time, as a content creator, the work does get a bit overwhelming at times. So, I mean, I'm going to take every break that I can whenever it comes. And then hopefully I can go on a spree of green arrows and help myself to a good rank come the end of the season.
Mate, if I don't get a green arrow in game week 7, and by the way, I'm 1 million higher than you in terms of rank. I'm like 4.5 million. I might not come back after the international break. Get red. What have I done? So I'm just going to play Serie A fantasy and my UEFA fantasy because I'm doing well in both those other games. I'm just going to bang on about that for the next 6 months, and then start afresh in 25, 26. Might be the plan. Might be the plan. Who knows?
Next season is our season.
Yeah. It's always next season, isn't it? Our producer might want to clip that. It's quite funny. Michelle says bench Vardy, Rodgers, or Semenyo. Vardy for me, I think.
It's close. I think I would probably go Rodgers. I don't think I'd bench Vardy. I'd expect Leicester to score there. I'll probably bench Rodgers, I think, simply because of the minutes. ESR against City sell. I think Smith was a sell. Yeah, he has been a sell for the past few weeks, actually. Zubi, I need help. I've got 2 free transfers, which would leave me with this.
Oh, I'm glad you're taking this one. I can't do the long questions live.
Yeah, I have no idea what this means. I'm sorry. Do you make any sense out of it? I have no idea what this means.
My brain can't process that live.
Exactly.
Unless you lot want to watch me in silence for a minute.
Okay, Johnny, you can take this one.
Good idea to wildcard 7 for an international break. Personally, I think we'll both agree here. This isn't a wildcard week. Wildcard 8, however, is. Go into the international break with some time, probably some injuries off the back of it, with Arsenal's fixture swing away, and then your wildcard. Ice G, one for Big Man.
This is the same question again. This is the same question, and I agree with Johnny that no, I don't think it's worth using a wildcard right now just to shoehorn in Palmer against Forest. I think your team will look vastly different in Gameweek 8 if you decide to wildcard as opposed to wildcarding right now.
Luis Diaz, for those that don't have a good bench, if he was benched this week, is an interesting one because we bought Luis Diaz on wildcard for an immediate 6 and 7 haul against Wolves and Palace, and we don't know if that will come versus Palace, but then it's Chelsea and Arsenal. He then does play Brighton at home, Villa at home, Southampton away. It's not a terrible run, but there's so many good midfield options, certainly at Spurs with the cheapos, Brennan Johnson, for example. I'd be tempted to sell if I didn't have a good bench option.
Yeah, I agree. Depends on your bench cover, really. If you have a good bench, then you can just keep. Is it time to bring in Foden? I do expect him to start. If you want to bring him in, he's a good pick. Personally, that's what I feel. Steven is asking, is Saka essentially, if you have Salah and Palmer, need him Burmo? I don't think he's essential, but he's a really good pick at this point in time. But I think a lot of people will be looking to sell him in game weeks by game week 8 or 9 at the most. So he's not essential, but I mean, he could do some good big damage this week. Gianni, you can take this one.
I'm surprised so many are looking at selling Trent. He's still, for me, the best defender in the game. Keep him. You don't need Guardiola. Like, Guardiola's great, but he's not a move heaven and earth to get him kind of player yet.
Yeah, just keep Trent this week. You can decide what to do with him later. If you need the funds for a transfer later.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you for your questions. Guys, thank you, by the way, for hitting the like button and for subscribing. It really helps out the algorithm. So do take the time just to check you're subbed. Saka
Naim is asking, is Saka the only way to Son or Palmer? I think realistically, yes, when you look at the structure, because a lot of people have Haaland, and assuming you have Haaland, then Saka is like the make weight for Son or Palmer looking at the fixtures. So whenever Arsenal have a good run of fixtures, you can jump on Saka and vice versa with Son and Palmer. So yeah, I think that works best structure-wise. If you try and fit in, let's say 3 or 4 of them in the same team, then it will compromise either the bench or the defense. So that's what I would look at for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you there, mate. I'm with you there. Thank you, guys, as always. We'll be back on Friday to reveal our teams. We'll also get Dean's take on Fulham because I really want to know if it's so obvious that we captain Haaland this week. And I sense it might be when we look at those numbers from last season and a lot of goals. Haaland obviously got a hat-trick in this fixture last year. Fortunately, City played Tuesday night in the Champions League, not Wednesday, because again, that could put me off a little bit. Let's see. But yeah, nice little rest for Haaland and a goal in the week. Thank you, as always, for watching. Big Man, I'll look forward to checking in with you at the end of the week. I've tweeted in the show, breaking news, Big Man is holding Bruno, just for a bit of fun. And you've taken it very well, mate, considering you're there, like a lot of content creators, and I include myself in this, to be shot at. Sometimes we just need to do up the middle finger and move on. And it was lovely and refreshing to see you do that at the end of last week. So keep your spirits high, and green arrows are forecast for both of us, I'm sure.
Cheers, mate. Good luck to you as well. Will you be joining us on Friday?
I hope so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to the discussion then as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And I have a feeling you're going to go with Havertz captain this week, Johnny.
I genuinely am tempted. I've ruled out, for the ease in my own head, I've ruled out Saka because I was just like, if I go Arsenal, I'm going Arsenal to bet against the obvious. And if I'm betting against the obvious, Saka does that, but Havertz really does that. And I do think Havertz will, if you ask me who's going to get more points out of Saka and Havertz, I can't split them. So I may as well go for the lower owned player. But I didn't know those Haaland stats till this show. And now I'm like, I'm leaning more towards Haaland. So let's see. But I think we'll be back on air at the same time, CHEA, on Friday. So that 1 o'clock slot, I'm pretty sure is ours on Friday. But I'll check in and we'll tweet out. But I'm pretty sure 1 p.m. on Friday, same as this one. We'll see you later in the week, guys. Bye-bye.
Take care. Good luck.